So one of the numbers I was looking at as far as running back and records go and things like that for the Atlanta Falcons was receiving yards. Because again, we anticipate the idea is camp's going to open up here. It'll open practices will start on Thursday. Guys will be reporting this week. The veterans will. Bijan Robinson's already up there. But I was looking at some of the numbers for running backs, and the all-time leader for a single season in receiving yards is 735 by William Andrews in 1981. He had 735 yards and 2 touchdowns in 1981. That's the most ever for a running back. Now, do I think that that's a number that Bijan Robinson can approach and potentially break? That's a pretty stout number. But again, we saw Tyler Algier kind of come out of nowhere and have himself 1,000-yard season that nobody saw coming. I mean, we didn't see 1,000 yards coming, for all of this. But and again, even in 7 starts. So again, he set records for Falcons, rookie running backs and all this good kind of stuff. So can Bijan Robinson be a guy that catches 735 yards, out of the backfield? Like I said, that's a pretty stout number when you look at everything. But I think Robinson's got a shot at it. Because again, if we're not going to have Desmond Ridder kind of force the ball downfield, where Marcus Mariota, you saw certainly times that he forced the football down the field. Maybe Bijan Robinson becomes kind of that safety valve. And if they want to use positionless football and they want to use Bijan Robinson and his ability to catch the football in all different spots and things like that, as people are focused on Drake London and Kyle Pitts and obviously worried about Tyler Algier and Robinson running the football, maybe Robinson finds his way to catching a whole bunch of yards coming out of the backfield. I mean, again, 735 yards, that's a pretty stout number. Because again, I still think that he's got a shot to be a 1,000-yard rusher in this offense. And that's, again, even if he doesn't start a whole ton of games and Algier gets most of the starts or whatever like that, there'll be plenty of carries and plenty of opportunity for Bijan Robinson to make impacts in the game. But I think that you look at Robinson and they, no matter who it's been, whether it's been Pitts or London, they will work their rookies in slow and steady over time and build up their workload to it, right? Again, we talked about Algier only starting 7 games, and again, part of that was Patterson getting hurt. And again, he wasn't getting the lion's share of the carries. And then that just kind of built and built and built and built. So again, that's the number to beat, right? I mean, if Robinson wants to set his own record, and again, maybe he could be a 1,000-yard rusher in this, in this league. But I look at the total yards from scrimmage for a Bijan Robinson, because again, we talked about, and obviously Arthur Smith, more importantly, has talked about the idea of positionless football. He's going to be all over the field. He's going to be used everywhere on the football field, and that means, again, lining up in the slot or whatever like that. It won't be just line up in the I formation for a Bijan Robinson. But 735 yards, that's a pretty hefty total. And I was surprised to see that William Andrews actually, besides the 735 yards that he had in 1981, he's also got the next highest total for a Falcons running back with 609 yards and 4 touchdowns in 1983. And then you go to Art Malone after that, and then you go into Devontae Freeman, who had 578 yards in the 2015 season, the year before the Super Bowl. So, again, was kind of surprised to see William Andrews catching that many passes when they had Alfred Jenkins and people like that could stretch the field. So maybe that's the theory, is that, again, if some of these guys are headed downfield and, again, Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts and Drake London find themselves being covered deep, maybe Robinson becomes that safety valve. And if you dump it off to him, again, he can accumulate a lot of yards. He can accumulate a lot of yards after catch. get those yak yards, right? So it'll be a number to watch, just from a craps and giggles type of standpoint. Again, if he's 600 or 700 yards receiving the football or receiving the ball, I'm not going to be mad at all of that. The number I'm going to be most interested in at the end of the day is going to be his touchdown mark. That's going to be the number that I'm going to be looking at. Okay. Again, when you draft a guy 8th, I can accumulate yards any way possible. Run it, catch it, whatever like that. Special teams, whatever like that. But I want to see what the touchdown total is. Okay, if it turns out to be that it's only 1 touchdown for Bijan Robinson, then I'm going to be disappointed. But if it's, again, say he rushes the football for 700 yards and he catches 5 or 600 yards out of the backfield and he has 10 touchdowns to go along with it, be perfectly fine with all that. I just want to see this offense score touchdowns. I can live with Kyle Pitts being a guy that, catches 55 passes for 850 yards, but he's got to score a dozen touchdowns, right? I mean, that's at the end of the day what we're going to be measuring this by and what the impact on the game is going to be. So bear in mind that 735 yards receiving for a Falcons running back is the franchise record. Could Bijan Robinson get to that number? I don't know. It's a pretty stout number, but certainly I think again, not that they're going to try to get the record, but he certainly could be in line to catch a whole bunch of balls out of the backfield and accumulate a lot of yards in the passing game, making Desmond Ridder's life a whole lot easier when all is said and done. All right, as you listen into Hittin' Hard, make sure you go into whatever podcast platform that you're listening on and go in the comment section and let us know that you're an everyday listener to the program. We call them our everydayers, and we thank you so much for being a part of our community. But let us know that you're an everydayer to the program, an everyday listener, 5 days a week in the program on whatever podcast platform that you listen on. Leave us a comment there.